Right, hi everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, episode 12, I think it is. Yeah, thank you for listening to last week's episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Blah blah blah. We'll get straight into it. So, got a question from Ryan. What's harder to train for, marathons or Hyrox? It's a very interesting question, and I think it kind of depends on who you are. So, I think for myself personally, I would class myself as like an average marathon runner, but a well below average high roxer. So I definitely find marathon training easier than training for high rocks, and I find a marathon event itself easier than a high rocks event. That's just personal. Yeah, for me, I think the thing that makes high rocks really difficult is that your heart rate is just like constantly like through the roof, and it's just impossible to take it easy. Like, yes, you can run the 8 1 kilometer runs at a steady pace if you wanted to, but like the actual 8 exercise stations in between are just absolutely brutal, and you just cannot do them like half-heartedly. It's kind of like all or nothing. Whereas like when it comes to like training for a marathon or even doing the actual marathon itself, you could, in theory, like run it at like an easy pace, and you can like it's a lot easier to kind of like control your heart rate and keep it at like a moderate level. Don't get me wrong, like I'm not suggesting running a marathon is easy by any stretch, because at the end of the day, like you'll still, even if you feel really good aerobically, you'll still feel it on your legs, your knees, your hips, your ankles, and everything, no matter who you are. But yeah, I think for me personally, I find the marathon easy to train for, but I think that's largely because I've got a lot more experience at long distance running than I do at being a wannabe hybrid rock star, if you want to call it that. I'm definitely not that, by the way, but I think like the best people to ask that question would be people who are kind of accomplished at both disciplines. You've got people who are like really fast and really quick at running marathons, and they're also equally as good at doing high roxes. So I think those kind of people would be the better people to ask in order to answer that question. Um, but yeah, I do think that high rocks personally is a lot more brutal than a marathon. But again, that's certainly just like my personal experience. Now, on the subject of running, the London Marathon ballot was open and it closed a week ago on Friday, so it shut 9 days ago. So a record number of 1.3 million people have applied for next year's London Marathon, which is obviously like, yeah, it just goes to show like how popular marathon running is these days. Not just in our country, but lots of like foreign entries as well. And I think the data showed that like the most common group of people who applied for next year's London Marathon was like 20 to 29-year-old females. So that's like really good to see. I think there's lots of cases in the past where like women in particular have felt a bit too scared or too intimidated to like go outside and go running for various reasons. But I do think it's really encouraging to see that like lots of them have felt inspired by other people, which is like presumably why they've entered in the first place. But yeah, I've applied for it myself, and I find out in July whether I get in or not. And basically, you could either enter the ballot normally, or you could do like the double your chances entry. So basically, like you pay 50 quid. You allegedly double your chances of getting in, and if you don't get in, you'll receive like a hydration vest that's worth over 100 quid, allegedly. So we'll see. Yeah, if I get in, I get in. If I don't get in, then I'll stick the hydration vest on Vinted and try and get as much money as I can, because I've already got one. But yeah, hopefully I get in. I'm recording this on Sunday, so today it was the Leeds Marathon and the Leeds Half Marathon. So I think what I'll actually do is I'll enter the Leeds Marathon for next year when I've stopped recording this, because I've never done it before. It's relatively local, and yeah, I'd like to do it. So yeah, well done to everyone who did it. Well done to Max and Maddie who did the Leeds Half Marathon this morning. Yeah, really good achievement. I'm proud of you both. And I think another thing I'll go on to is kind of like what's the best way to like motivate you. So whether that's for running or like strength training, or whatever your goal is, you might want to lose weight, or you might just want to get fitter and stronger, or whatever it may be. I think like setting short, medium, and long term goals is definitely one of the key components of motivation. And then also like tracking your progress as well. So if you're like lifting weights in the gym, you can obviously like, you can either like use the old school pen and paper or use an app and track down like what weights you've been lifting and how many reps you did and things like that. And then you can like use that to like achieve progressive overloads over the coming weeks and months. In terms of running, I think like definitely Strava is the best app to use. Again, in terms of like tracking your progress, because at the end of the day, like what gets measured gets improved. But I think, motivation, generally speaking, is what gets you started, but then it's like habits is what keeps you going. And once you're in that habit, then you can't really go wrong. You'll just kind of be like automatically programmed to wake up and go like, right, I need to go and do this today. And I think also setting realistic goals and just like, realizing from the word go that you're not going to achieve like overnight progression. It's going to take time, but as long as you're consistent and you keep showing up like most days of the week and then achieve that progressive overload, then over time you will start to see results. And then that is what keeps you in the habit and keeps you motivated to continue this in the long term. And again, that's regardless of what your goal is. You do have like two types of goals. So you've got performance goals and you've got compositional goals. So a performance goal might be, I want to run a sub 4-hour marathon. And it's as simple as that. That's how it's like measurable. A compositional goal is kind of like more to do with appearance. So it might be like, I want to look good because I'm off on a beach holiday in 6 months' time, or I'm getting married in 6 months' time and I want to look good for the pictures, whatever that may be. I think like it's good to have that to aim for in terms of like a short to medium term goal. But at the same time, I think it needs to be like more sustainable. So don't have like the holiday or the wedding as like the end goal. Have it as just like a milestone. But then after that, you want to like carry on doing what you've been doing before. Like I say, just to like maintain that so that you feel good about yourself mentally, but also like your body's healthier as well. So I just think it's important, like whenever you set yourself a goal, to kind of note like why you want to achieve it in the first place, and then just kind of like keep a diary of kind of like how good you felt, during and after each session that you've done. Because I think it's important to realize that like at the same time, there's also like no such thing as linear progression. You're going to have a few little dips and bumps in the road, for various reasons, both physically and mentally. I mean, if I go and do a park run, for example, and I want to try and get a 5K PB, like it's not necessarily going to happen. Sometimes I might go slower than I did last time for no reason in particular. It's just that sometimes you like wake up on the right side of the bed and other times you don't. It's just one of those things, you might get injured or you might get a flu that puts you out of action for a week or two, stuff that's like outside of your control. But I think the point is just to kind of like not beat yourself up whenever you do go down a little bit, but then on the way back up, you've been there and done it before. So again, it's just a case of like keeping everything realistic, I think. Ryan also asked me another question. He's currently away in Dublin this weekend. If he doesn't at least try a Murphy's or a Beamish, then I'm sorry, mate, but you've kind of like wasted your trip. But joking aside, the question says neck sup pass and then it says Madri, Guinness, and Moretti. So I'm assuming what would I neck, what would I sup, like enjoy slowly, and what would I pass up on. So out of Madri, Guinness, and Moretti, like Guinness is definitely my favourite beer, but it's not something I'm just going to down in one go. So I'm going to sup that and enjoy it nice and slowly. And then I think I will neck the Moretti and pass on the Madri. All is well. I think with Guinness, right? So yeah, I do love a Guinness. That's no secret. But it does depend like where you go, because if you like it's not a cliche. If you go to any pub in the Republic of Ireland or Northern Ireland, the Guinness is going to be like a 10 out of 10. People say that Guinness doesn't travel well, and I don't know scientifically whether that's true or not. It probably is, but I think you can go to like some pubs in England and Guinness is like very hit and miss. Sometimes you get a good Guinness and sometimes you get a really bad Guinness, and there's like no in between. So kind of like for two reasons mainly. I think sometimes people don't serve it properly, and also like the pipes don't get cleaned. So if you taste a pint of Guinness, I think it's like if it tastes like shite, basically, I think it's fairly obvious that like the pipes haven't been cleaned properly. And I'm not saying this to like sound snobby or anything like that. It's just the way it is. But then also like when you pour a pint of Guinness in the pub, you're supposed to sort of pour it sort of like 3/4 of the way up on an angle and then leave it to set for a couple of minutes and then top it up to the brim, so you've got like a nice little head for it, and then again leave it for another minute or two before you start drinking it. And that is like a really good way to enjoy Guinness. But I mean, like about a year and a half ago, me and Julia went to this random pub in the Peak District somewhere, and it was hands down the worst pint of Guinness I've ever had. Like she kind of just like poured it, didn't even tilt the glass barely, filled it right to the top straight away to the point where it was like overflowing, like as if she was pouring a pint of Carling or something. And yeah, it just didn't taste very nice at all. So like, I think, obviously she didn't serve it properly, but also, yeah, the pipes at that particular pub blatantly didn't get cleaned. And also like the Tank and Paddle in York, by the way, in my opinion, their Guinness is like not up to scratch either. I sound like a bit of a knob, to be honest with you, saying that, but I'm just saying it how it is. Like anyone who likes to drink a Guinness can relate, definitely. But yeah, I'm going to Belfast with the lads at the beginning of September, and I very much can't wait to get back on the Guinness over there for that weekend. But yeah, if you're in Dublin, for example, like definitely try a Murphy's and Beamish. They're like also like stouts that are like alternatives. In my opinion, like Beamish is the best one. But yeah, just give it a try and you can't go wrong. And then yeah, kind of finally, really, there's not much else to talk about really, but yeah, Alex, who used to work with us, Mr. Halo, like he's working on a farm these days. He sent me some pictures of a load of like lambs and horses and chickens that he's been working with on the farm. He's built up like quite a rapport with the owner of the said farm as well. So yeah, just glad to hear that you're doing well, Alex, if you're listening to this. Plenty of chalky milk from those cows that you're milking. I'm going to stop it there. But yeah, this is just like a nice short and sweet podcast. I'm going to do another one, obviously, like next Sunday. So yeah, if you enjoy what you're listening to, then please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, just comment below or send me a DM on Instagram. If there's any guests that you want me to get on, then yeah, just like let me know who you want on, and I'll try my best to get that person on. And yeah, that's kind of it really. Short and sweet. Hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you later.